of all, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for coming here today, and thank you very much for inviting me and hosting us today. Talking about the significance of International Women's Day for me, you know, when I think about it, and I look around us, and here we are, white privileged women, sitting together, talking about International Women's Day and its significance. I think that for me, its main significance is by us encouraging each other to empower other women, to help other women, to pull up other women, and because it's not enough to be a woman in a position of power or a woman in a position of decision making or to be a trailblazer yourself. It's important, it deserves all the appreciation, but unless we are taking advantage of this position in order to help other women, in order to create an environment that will encourage other women, then for me something is missing. So International Women's Day for me is an opportunity to talk about this and to create awareness. And since unfortunately in these panels normally you get more women in the audience than men, so I will tell the women in the audience what I want you to take from today's panel, without knowing what the other panelists are going to say, is to think how you, as empowered women, can empower other women.
Thank you very much.
Well, thank you. Could I just start by pointing out two other members of Parliament here? Because Miriam is the first woman and the first Conservative who also gained a seat in any case at the election. And Lady Aiken's the first woman member of Parliament for Westminster City, London, Westminster in its 700th year.
Welcome.
I was marching with us at the International Women's Day March yesterday with Sharon Bar-Li, slightly overwhelmed by a number of lefties on the audience shouting fuck the patriarchy all the time, but that's not what it doesn't mean to me. But it is an opportunity to take stock. And every year, just to remind ourselves what we've achieved over the last year, and whether it's 2 steps forward and 1 backward, sometimes the other way around. And it's also an opportunity, which I try and do every day actually. I have a routine of bicycling over the bridge every day, and at that moment I try and remind myself how lucky I am to be born with the golden lottery ticket of life, which is in this country free and fair, and how utterly ghastly life is for so many women around the world. So that's what it is for me. I think you all know I do my best for women most of the time. But in addition to that, I think it's a chance to think about what we've achieved in the last year.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank you, and thank you for hosting this. And can I start by saying thank you to Anne, because it's the founder and chairman of Women2Win. She's helped so many people, and so many women like myself, to actually have the funding and to have the resources that we needed to actually get on in politics. And it speaks to itself really, to say that we need to have an organisation like Women2Win to actually do things and to be empowered to move forward. And so, I kind of look forward to the day when we're not having an International Women's Day, or we don't need Women2Win, because we are able to actually get on in our own life. And as I know, I was the second female to be elected MP in Chile. It was a real tough fight for me against Liberal Democrats. But the previous previous female MD was elected in 2001 and had a short tenure because she died in office, but she was a Liberal Democrat. And you know something, even so when I was going around and campaigning, people were talking about her. They liked Patsy. And I think sometimes we forget, and if you don't mind me saying, gentlemen in this room, that women perhaps have unique skills in politics that we actually don't talk about enough. In my view, you don't need to be a high flyer to be a really good local councillor and a really excellent MP. And I think sometimes we set the bar so high because we talk about powerful, inspirational women, and perhaps we should be talking about the women who actually help us on our way. So I always remember Sheila. She she always tried to get elected and never ever seemed to stand a chance of doing it. But she was really good at trying to help other people to get on, passing on all the tricks of the trade that we needed. And so from my point of view, the heroes are the ones who help us. I echo sentiments expressed by Sharon.
Thank you. Nicola.
So yeah, I echo the same sentiments that we've got to use these positions, that we have to encourage other people to get involved in politics and represent their communities. And I was elected as a councillor fairly young too. I was 20 when I was elected to the council. And so I tried to get not just women but young people in general involved in becoming a councillor. It was really important. We managed to get 530, which was really good. They'll have one less after May because I'll be stepping down. But I always tried to use what I was doing to show people it's possible and to inspire people to try and do the same things. So last year I did a kind of course of women's events throughout the year and had no idea that in 2019 in December I'd be elected as a member of Parliament. And so I want to carry on doing what I was doing as a councillor to show that you can do it.
Okay, thank you. So the first question, which woman has influenced you most and why? And I don't know whether you want to make it a public figure. I mean, it's the woman that influenced you most.
Well, the easy choice would have been to say Golda Meir, right? The Israeli prime minister who was a real trailblazer and who, I mean, she was ahead of her time in so many aspects, living and operating in a real men's world, not in today's political world. But I don't want to talk about her. But I don't want to talk about her. And if I think about it, and I can have many public or political figures that will come to mind, but at the end of the day, I will always go back to my grandmother. My grandmother came originally from Poland, and she emigrated to Israel following her heart. Her fiancé emigrated to Israel, and he wrote her letters, and then she decided, she was very young, she decided against the will of her family to leave Poland and to immigrate to Israel. Of course, she was saved by this. All the family was perished in the Holocaust, but that's not the story today. And my grandmother, although she left a very rich family, she came to Israel, she lived in a tent in Tel Aviv, in the sands, she paved roads, and since I can remember her, she was always telling me that as a woman, I always have to be economically independent. I should never be dependent on a man, never ever. She told me that I have to study, and since I was very young, she told me that one day I'll be Prime Minister. I have no such ambitions, but what I'm trying to say that since a very young age, she put in my head the idea that I can be Prime Minister, that I can be independent, I should not be dependent on any man. I mean, she was a feminist in her way. By the way, she was dependent on a man all her life. And, even, this was very funny, when she was already a very old lady, she was 84 years old, and I was a student in university, and, I just had a casual boyfriend. She told me, what's going on? When am I going to have grandchildren from you? And I said, come on, Grandma, I'm not even married. And she looked at me and said, you should be a little bit modern. You don't need to get married for that. So this is, she was ahead of her time in so many aspects, and she really gave me this ambition and power. She empowered me actually to do all these things, and I think that it's no wonder that by the age of 11 my dream was to become a diplomat, and she was there pushing me and encouraged me all the way. So yes, the person who influenced me most on these issues, definitely my grandmother.
Inspirational figure in your life.
Yeah.
Thank you. Baroness Jenkin.
Yeah, I've got a granny too. So my mother's mother, both my mother's parents were MPs actually, but my mother's mother was the 33rd ever woman MP, and also went to high school. First women's peerages were in 1959 and she went in 62, so a very early and probably rather lone figure. And actually she was the only Conservative woman MP elected in 1945, so that really was quite a lone figure. But in addition to her, I'd like to include her father, who was also an MP, a Liberal MP for St Pancras, and he introduced the first women's suffrage bill in 1907. He was elected, and another one every year up to the war, because his sister was a doctor, and he couldn't see how he had a vote and she didn't. Didn't make him very popular, he missed out on lots of promotions. But he was the teller, well, he had basically sort of put in the legislation that finally got through the Better Representation of People Act. And I don't know if any of you watched Suffragette last night, but I always picture him in that room with Lloyd George, because he must have been there. There's a letter from Millicent Fawcett to him saying, we knew you, the only one with the perfect voting record, we knew you are our one true friend in Parliament. So I'll give you a double relationship as my heroes, political heroes.
Thank you very much. Mary.
I'm full of envy of these grandmothers. Unfortunately, I've not got anybody to fall back on who was inspirational to me in that same way. And also, wonderful stories about how women can push other women forward and say, you know, you can break down barriers. And from my point of view, I can't name somebody who is like the inspirational figure in my life, just lots of people. And I think in very many ways it's those smaller people who aren't such high achievers, but just give us a gentle nudge and just say, what's the current phrase? Yes, you can, this girl can. Who just gives a nudge along the way. And I think that's, you know, collectively, we should be people who empower others, not wait for that one great person to kind of do it for us. I think it's fantastic. Just think of what we could all have done if we had had such great grandmothers behind us. But you know, at the end of the day, women have a lot of problems, you know, getting onto the political ladder, and a lot of those are around the fact that they don't have the self-esteem, that there isn't anybody there telling them that it's okay to actually just be an ordinary person and go along and to stand for the local council. Because there's lots of barriers to this, which we may or may not talk about. But I think we need to value all of the things that women do which aren't extraordinary, because collectively those things can make an extraordinary politician, and that would be my small contribution to this. And you know, from my point of view, don't look out for a truly inspirational woman to make you do things, just get on and do it.
Similar to Mary, I have lots of strong women in my family that have inspired me in many ways, but I think politically it's been lots of people I've met along the way that have encouraged me. I've been really fortunate to work with some amazing women, and you know, one of them being Margot James. I used to work for her in her office in Stourbridge, and I remember one day we were actually having a bit of a debate about Israel. And she said, you'll make a good MP, because you're tenacious. And I thought, I'm not sure if that's a good thing. But it's people like her that helped push me along. It was actually a man that encouraged me to stand for council when I was 19 for the first time, and saw some kind of potential in me at that point, even though I was really shy and I didn't know what I was doing. He really helped me and encouraged me. So it hasn't always been women that have pushed me along. And I have to say, in the last few years, when, you know, being a councillor can be quite difficult at times. You've got lots of, not just issues on the council itself, but issues within your political group as well, and lots of big personalities. and that can be really difficult. And seeing the way that Theresa May handled things, to me as a woman, just I thought it was incredible, and kind of really instilled in me that you can't give up and to keep on going. And I think she was brave and strong, and so she'll always be a bit of a hero to me. I kind of secretly fangirl her and get a bit shy. And of course, I think every Conservative who talk about Margaret Thatcher is a massive inspiration. Someone really bold and spoke their mind, whereas by any kind of sassy woman that says how it is. So, collection.
Thank you. In Britain and Israel, the number of women in Parliament is around 30%. Are we doing enough to encourage women into a career in politics or diplomatic service? Baroness, can I ask you to give us, because I really think this is your...
So when we started Women2Win in 2005, there were 17 Conservative women MPs. That was 9% of the Parliamentary Party, so to flip that on its head, that's 91% male. And David Cameron embraced it, supported us, because I thought I'd just been grappling with the Conservative Party cage for the next 10 years, but we actually had a bit of support from the party. They just left us to do the support of women on our own, but no matter. And we've gone from that pitiful 9%. By the way, at the same time, Labour, so we had our 17, Labour Party had 101. Okay, that was the Blair landslide, but we just kind of picture how terrible that is. Roll forward 2 elections, still 9%, so that's really why we launched it. And we went from 9 to 20% and up to 24% in the last election. But which is better, and in fact, that's basically an 81% increase between 2015 and 19. So, looking on the bright side, if we continue that trajectory, I won't be in my bath chair by the time we finish this. It's, well, we all know what the challenges are and the difficulties of it. And the Labour Party have got to 51%. As I said at the CWO conference, and I'm sorry I'm repeating myself to one or two, we have quality as quantity, and their quality is not as high. So, I think, we're doing better, and I would rather do it incrementally, but I'm fearful of slipping backwards. Somebody sent me some stats this morning, said, you've done it, and I'm like, I really haven't, you've done it. But also, of course, Boris has done it by increasing the number of women in these 2 games that we were sort of part of that. There's more to be done. We can celebrate, as it is International Women's Day, that we've done much better. But just bear in mind the other point, which is that we've only got 7 Conservative women MPs elected before 2010. Only 7 left. There are 80 since 2010. Now that's a problem with retention and the pipeline. And we can all think of lots of great names of great women who didn't stand here last time, okay, for exceptional circumstances. But as well as supporting those of you still on your journey, I'm determined this time to support you for the room and the rest of the 87 of you, because we can't afford for that to happen again. For it to be an experience that you don't enjoy, you don't thrive in this place, and that you then pack it in after a short period, because in order to get a woman to the top, you need quite plenty of women.
Thank you very much. Mary.
Thank you. Well, one of the things is, from our book, speaking from experience, when I became the candidate in December, 12th of December, I think it was, 2012, for Tudor, and I had a nice run in then to the general election in 2015, which we knew in those good old days that would take place on a certain date, because we have a 5-year Parliament Act actually working in our favour. I knew what I had ahead of me. I had a tough fight, and it was a marginal seat to get to Liberal Democrats. It was going to be very challenging. There was no two ways about it. But I like campaigning, so I enjoyed doing it. It's still a marginal seat now. And one of the issues that maybe we have to face is, and I think we may have done it this time more so, is to ensure that women are given a chance to go for seats that aren't just marginal seats, to kind of have a go at them and see whether or not they'll do okay, to help them to get onto the shortlists and to be able to take on the seats that are going to get them into Parliament. Because obviously the best way to get more women into Parliament is to make it easier. And now and Women2Win are really pivotal in doing that. But, you know, that's something that I think we need to consider. I'm personally not in favour of all women shortlists. I was selected in the primary, and you know, that's to me was a really good way to get validation that I needed to be the candidate too. So I think we need to look at the way that we promote women on candidates list, and I know the sort of work being done on that. I also think we need to help more women into local government, because local government is really important, and it's where, you know, a lot of the decisions that are made that affect people's lives happen at local government level. And for women particularly who are interested in communities like I was, to actually stand for council and to be elected onto a local council was brilliant, because I was then able to influence things that really mattered to me and to the people who lived on my street and whose children were in the same schools as me. So, you know, that's where you get that connection, and you can actually start to inculcate into people that love of politics and the idea that politics can really make a difference.
Thank you. Nicola, I'm going to come to you last, Rob, because I think you've got a slightly different perspective.
So I think we've made really good steps, and I know that Anne Spencer literally dedicates her life to this. I found that there was a lot of support in the party, whether that was locally or within the party centrally, and local politicians that I've got to know, they will push me. I had really good people like Eddie Hughes pushing me, Rachel McLean, Margot, you know, loads of local people that just knew kind of what I'd done as a councillor and tried to encourage me. But I think had I not been a councillor and been pushed into doing that at such a young age, I would not be here right now. And so I think, you know, what Mary said is correct. Getting more women into local government is the best start. It gives you a taste for politics and how you can change people's lives. And actually, you have quite a lot of influence over decisions that are made as a councillor. More so in that, you know, I can't do very much about council casework as an MP, but if I was a councillor, I might be able to change things a bit more. So it's a really, really important role. We need to get more women into it. In Sandwell at the moment we have 0 Conservative councillors, so I don't, you know, just any councillor would be good there, man or woman. But I've been pushing. We've got one female candidate, and I think she's in a winnable ward, and we're going to hopefully win a few council seats in Sandwell this May. But in terms of in Parliament, I found my colleagues and the Conservative Party to be so helpful. You know, people that I didn't know at all before coming in here, and for me it's a bit weird because these are people that I've watched as on TV or seen at party conference, and they've been ministers, and you know, I've been watching what they're doing, and now I'm sitting down having a cup of tea with them in the tea room. It's really bizarre, but they're all really supportive. They all kind of look out for you. Victoria Atkins took me to one side the other day and said, "You're not advertising your surgery publicly, are you? Is there a bit of a security risk?" And I was like, "No, it's fine." She's like, "I'm really worried about you." You know, they all kind of look out for each other, and so it's a concern that we haven't been retaining all the female MPs, but I do feel confident that support I'm getting from the parliamentary party means that I would, you know, just makes them want to stay here even longer. You know, it's so. But to get there, it required a lot of effort, and it's meant that, you know, we had to win all these seats. Like, you know, we had to get that kind of majority to get there. But hopefully, the only way is that people like Sarah Brickcliffe, who's even younger than me by a few months, you know, having the two of us there, both 25 now, I hope will show the young women as well that it's possible. And I hope the party too sees real value in us being here. And will encourage more people of our age, more women of our age to get involved too.
Can you just make one picture about the local government issue? Because you're both local councillors, and Nikki was the leader of Westminster Council, third woman, well, I've got another woman after you, we've only got 14% of our council leaders are women, and we've slipped backwards from 31% to 29% of our women councillors. So it's another really crucial area, but we've seen that the three of you, and Miriam actually, were all councillors before you were elected, and the party itself needs to put its foot on the pedal on that. And not go backwards.
And not go backwards. And is there anything that you think could be done to support women more?
Well, I think the Ask Her to Stand campaign, which was very much heavily promoted last year around centenary, has been incredibly important. If you ask pretty much any woman MP, who asked you to stand, or even any councillor, they'll have a name. They'll say, and I was talking to Annie Wells, who's Deputy Leader in Scotland, I said, who asked you? She said, it was Ruth. Whereas a bloke knows, a boy knows who's about 7, he's going to be a brilliant MP. A woman will wait until it's almost too late, and somebody will say, have you ever thought about it, because you would make a great MP. And so any of us who know anybody who shouts at the telly, who gets all steamed up about stuff, or is a campaigner in terms of saving their children's playground or moving the bus stop or any of that, they're campaigners, and that automatically makes them qualified to be an MP.
I just wonder whether there may be kind of an unconscious bias within the way we run local government, and it might be around meetings. Meetings being held at times which aren't easy for women to get to, which leads to kind of an assumption which is self-generated, really, that it will be populated by retired men, basically. And so it's kind of, so local government tends to lend itself more to men who are retired rather than women who may be interested in politics when they're younger, when they're children at school, etc. But they didn't work in school, they probably...
I was going to say, I don't necessarily agree with that, but it might be different from Westminster, but most of our meetings, all our important meetings are in the evening. And so, and that's why I can do it. But I've also, one of the last things I did before I stepped down as leader was introduce a carers allowance, which was for, we call it a carers allowance because it wasn't just for people with children, it was also the other end of the spectrum. I had counsellors who had spouses with dementia, and it was about encouraging people from all walks of life to think you can do it. It's not just about your allowance, you get the allowance like everybody else, but it's also about if you have that extra caring allowance, we will pay for it. You do not need to give us receipts because we all know it's the black economy, but they have to declare it. So, if you're paying somebody £20 after your drive, not your partner, it's not about babysitting if you're looking after your own child, but, and that was quite often trying to tell that to fathers, counsellors. But it is about that. It is about widening up scope.
Thank you. Sharon, I'm going to turn the question to you now about encouraging women to go into the diplomatic service. I don't know what the statistic is in Israel, actually, I don't know.
I will tell you.
Okay, thank you.
I'll tell you in a minute. But if you look at different aspects of gender inequality, gender equality and gender inequality in Israel, then the aspect on which you have the highest gap is on political power. When it comes to political power, there is the widest gender inequality gap in Israel. And we have to ask ourselves why is it this way and what can be done about it. When it comes to the foreign ministry, out of 103 heads of missions, we have today 16 women. 10 women just returned to Israel last summer. 6 other replaces them, so it's still more or less the same. Out of 19 deputy director generals in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, only 6 are women. Okay? In my cadet course, we were the biggest cohort ever, and this was 25 years ago. Out of 52 cadets, we were 17 women. In the 2 last cohorts, this year and last year, there were more women than men, but it only happened because the cohort was far smaller. The numbers stayed similar, okay, but the cohort became smaller. Some are even saying that you find more women applying to the foreign ministry in Israel today because it became a pink profession, because salaries are very low and it's no longer attractive enough for men to go to such a career. Okay, it's not good enough money, and hence you find more women turning towards this career. I would like to believe that, you know, whoever takes this path in life, and again, it's not a career, it's a lifestyle, and I guess that you can say the same about politicians. It's not a regular profession. You have to have a very strong sense of dedication, and you really have to be involved, hearts and minds, in order to do your job well. So we are not doing that well. We are improving, but not fast enough. And the issue from my point of view is that it's always expected from women to create the change for women, while, you know, having gender equality in centers of power or in centers of decision making, this is not just women's interests, you know, this should be society's interest, this should also be men's interest, because it has been proven that where you have women, when you have gender equality, you have more creativity, you have different views and different outlooks at things, and it necessarily creates higher productivity. So you cannot expect women to do this, to lead this struggle and win this struggle alone. Men has to be there, you know, and demand this equality and demand this change as well. And yes, so I do believe that there is far more to go when it comes to diplomacy, at least in Israel. And coming back to what I said at the very beginning, you know, there is this say that there is special place in hell for women who don't help other women. Most of the people who helped me in my career were men diplomats, not women. I would say that some of the women diplomats were even were doing the opposite. Yeah. Yes. So I think it's a partnership. It has to be a partnership.
It's a cultural change.
Yes, absolutely. But not just society mindset, but especially in where power lies, in decision-making centers, you know, in where policies are being shaped. These are the most important crossroads where it's your interest to have gender parity, to have at least 50% of women. And you need to have women in these places in order to even mainstream it, you know, mainstream it in people's mind, that they will get used to see women sitting in these places, or they will get used to have the gender element being talked about when making a policy, when weighing things.
Can I just pitch on that? Because I don't know how many people saw the photograph from the Treasury of them planning the budget, and there were six men in the room and not a single woman. And they're like, oh, we're very busy doing the budget. Well, fine, but not to have a single woman around that table is absolutely shocking.
Yeah,
The optics and the content, because you don't have women's voice around the table. This isn't about political correctness, by the way.
No.
Because women's life experiences are different. So you have to have that difference, better reflected. But I do absolutely echo what you say about men's support, by the way. And I do find that the more men that support us, it's because they're finding in a lot of cases that their daughters' careers are being blocked or reaching a level that they're noticing the prejudices they're coming up against. We made what I thought was rather good film called Daughters, which was male MPs talking about gender equality through the lens of their daughters, and some of them had tiny daughters and some had grown-up daughters. But we deliberately used male MPs because the message was to our our selectorate, who of course, given off the chance refer to John type, sorry, nothing personal, because of I hope to powerful message.
I'm going to open it up to questions now. Yes,
I'm a mother of a daughter who's only 16 and a son who will be 14 in the summer. And I've always thought, we talk so much about empowering girls, which is very, very important, but we've also got to empower our boys to understand and appreciate equality. And that's what I've done with my son. I'm very fortunate that my husband is a feminist, though he would never admit it. But I've got people, I've got people in my intake who, he's a senior civil servant, and there's people in my intake who've worked with him and come up to me and said, your husband supported me so much when I was in work with him. And he's always taught my daughter plays cricket and football, so does my son. So it's all about equality, but I do think, I would be interested to know what the panel thinks about the fact that we concentrate so much on girls, but what about the boys?
yes. I mean, from my own personal thing, I know you don't want to hear from me, but I just give you this little anecdote. I've got a son. I've got 3 sons and a daughter. My daughter was the oldest, and I have also chaired a domestic violence charity, and that was one thing we did very well, was educate the boys, talk to the boys, to empower them, and then make them open-minded and break down the stereotypes. I've done that with my sons as well, so I don't want to hear from me, over to everybody else. Nicola.
I mean, it's important. Quite a few of us have said that it isn't just not just women that helped us get to this point. Someone touched on that sometimes there's women that will actually knock you down and not support you, which is also I found to be the case. But so I think it's equally important that young men also understand that that part of making things better is about part of working together with women and equal opportunities, and it can only be benefit, and it's common sense really. But hopefully, I think the younger generations understand that better, and actually more of the problem are with the older generations of councillors really, and people in positions of power and selecting candidates. That's probably where more of the problem is, because I think younger men wouldn't think it's an issue.
Yeah. Thank you. Yes.
I come from Yorkshire today to come to thank Baroness and for what she has done for me, because I have not been successfully selected to stand the seat, but however, I know what Women2Win has done for ladies like myself. And also council in Wakefield, that's almost like a panda in Wakefield. You have a few councillors for Conservatives, and for me myself, coming from an ethnic minority group as well, so it's very, very rare. But however, I can say this, that we all need to think about how this journey can begin, by what sort of help and support we can. And I started when I was young, because I was born and bred in China. Every single Christmas, Spring Festival, Chinese New Year, that I would expect the red envelope. I know mine will be half of as much as my brother's, because you're a girl, right? This is how I was brought up, and understand, accepted. But when I came to this country 25 years ago, I married and had a husband and fell ill and all that. I brought 3 children on my own, and as your grandma said, never depend on men. So you have a journey to go, and why I can make the journey, because I live in this country, in Britain, and have so many people can aspire, give me that aspiration to do that. So what I was hoping to think about is exactly young women, how young women want, because we talk about some things, the gender fluid issue, gender is no longer binary. So the music, for example, the concert, we know that Taylor Swift will never sell the tickets as expensive as Coldplay, the female artists and male artists. So how are you thinking, actually, we are having a staggering figure that 257 years more we can catch up with economic power of women. We still need 257 years ahead to actually equalize with men at this moment of time. So it's really issues like exactly what we do and how we try to influence younger generation to come along to actually join us to celebrate this great day.
Thank
and that's my thought. Thank you.
Would you like to maybe comment on gender equality in Israel or?
Well, I wish I could say that everything is great, you know, and that there is gender equality in every aspect of life, economically, when it comes to salaries, when it comes to private sector, big companies, directorates, etc. No, it's not. There is still a lot of work to do. But in terms of legislation, I think that Israel is on the right path, and one can never underestimate legislation and regulation. You have to start there, first of all. Then, of course, one cannot undermine the role of military service in Israel. In Israel, there is a compulsory military service in which both men and women have to give their time. Girls for 2 years, boys for 3 years, but in which the majority of the military professions, and especially in recent years, are open to both of them, including when it comes to air pilot, when it comes to technological professions, when it comes to competent professions as well. And in a way, it's a place to create equity, to bring everyone to the same to the same opportunity line. I think that a lot is being done by civil society organizations, emphasizing the need to streamline gender equality to every decision-making process within government. Again, the implementation, I wish the implementation was as vigorous as the legislation and as the intention is. But the fact that now, according to law, once a year, there should be a report submitted to the government about gender equality in different governmental offices, in the public sector, in the military. It all brings us into the awareness that this is now an expectation. Again, I wish we would be quicker on the implementation as well.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. My name is Elizabeth Gibson, and I'm actually chair of Vauxhall Conservative Association, just over the river. And in fact, we actually have no directly elected Conservative representation within our area. And so one of my sort of goals on my association strategy plan is to try and encourage people, particularly women, to become involved in other ways in public life, via school governorships. Very important, because you really can be influential. Public appointments. Again, I advertise those on the website. I think it's crucial. And they're public appointments that aren't always grand. They might be prison visiting, where you can have huge influence. Also, a lot of understanding about how other people, how their lives are. And I think it's important also for our party to promote those ways, because there are areas, you mentioned Soundwell, no Conservative councillors. So you've got to get people involved in the community, and I'd be interested in thoughts on that as well.
Well, I mean, I don't care what people do, as long as they do something. I mean, I look, several women who are desperate to be MPs, and I look, it doesn't matter, you can be Secretary General of NATO, as long as you're doing something, it's, reasonably significant. So, I mean, you're completely right. Public appointments, particularly, hospital boards, it's not that difficult to get onto them.
Yeah.
I mean, it's difficult if you want to be chairman of the Environment Agency, you're risking a win if you haven't started already. But there are lots of things, school governors, as you say, all of that. Magistrates, and all of those are good training. And if you decide, you might decide that that's, the route you're going to go down, or you might find that life takes you in a different direction. And even in the places where you're not going to win, it's fantastically good experience to try it. I mean, I'm involved in which is in Glasgow in 1987. Thank you, no thank you, not for me. But at least if I hadn't tried it, I wouldn't know, and I might have loved it. And, as lots of people do, but you know, if you don't like campaigning, you shouldn't be doing it. But you know, all of us could do, you know, most of us could do more. Well, all of us can.
Well, I totally agree, and I was a school governor as well, so I know the value of it. But first of all, it's really valuable because you are actively engaged in the heart of communities when you're a school governor, because you know, you're there outside the school, parents talking about it, they come to you, they know that you're a governor, and you can have a little bit of power in a smaller organisation. Secondly, it's really valuable because you can make a big difference on the governing board. And so, memorably, and in fact, yesterday somebody said this to me 2 years ago, we really enjoyed it when you were governor of the school, because you would ask the questions which the staff governors and the parent governors didn't want to ask.